What's going on, Arc Junkies? I hope you all had a great weekend. Today is show number 244, and I wanted to switch things up just a little bit, and I want to get your feedback and your thoughts, if you don't mind. I wanted to do an episode on financial management. As welders, we have the potential to make some serious money, but we really don't get taught how to manage that money. And I've seen on several different occasions, a welder gets done with school, they get a high-paying job, and then they start pissing all the money away. New truck, new rims, flashy clothes, flashy jewelry, all that stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, it's your money. Do whatever the hell you want to do with it. But I know that I would like to live debt-free and have a nice nest egg once I retire, and also be able to take care of my family in the instance that, God forbid, something happens to me on the job site before I'm ready to retire. That's why I asked Richard Roybal to come on the show and give us some guidance on how to become financially independent. I know it's not the typical welding topic y'all are used to, but I still think it's relevant to this career, so I figured it'd make for a good topic for the audience. There's even some great information in here for those of you that have already started your own welding business, or you're thinking about starting your own welding business. We'll get right into it right after a quick word from the supporters of the show. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Outlaw Leather. Often imitated, never duplicated. Outlaw has everything you need to step up your welding game. Head on over to outlawleather.com and tour their online store. We're all familiar with their custom Outlaw leather hoods they make, but did you know they sell other hard goods as well? That's right, they carry clamps, squares, wedges, flange wizard tools, power tools, grinding wheels, and much, much more. Everything you need to get your work done. And if you're local or near the Pasadena, Texas area, you can pop in their showroom and see everything for yourself. And their staff, they're going to treat you like family. I just checked out their new facility while I was in Texas during the Welding Summit. It's super impressive and fully stocked. But if you can't make it to the showroom, no worries. Just pop over to the website and you can save 15% off on all the in-stock, handmade leather goods such as welding hoods, arm pads, bolt bags, and much more. And if you want something custom, they can do that for you too. Just shoot them an email, info@outlawleatherllc.com, and tell them what you want and they'll get you taken care of. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys, your source for all things related to maintenance welding. Wondering why that weld keeps cracking? Or that part keeps coming back to the shop for the same repair? It's probably because you're using the rods and wires that are meant for initial fabrication on clean material. But Rockmount makes the rods and wires you need to fix that part once and for all. Their products are specifically designed to weld stronger and last longer than typical electrodes. They have the rods and wires you need to weld up cast iron, cast steels, stainless, carbon, hardened steels, unidentifiable alloys, and dissimilar metals. And the rods have higher tensile strengths and higher percentage of elongations so that your repairs will handle the work you're throwing at it. They also carry a full line of hard-facing products to protect your high-dollar investments like buckets, blades, and other attachments from the wear and tear of earth, rock, and metal. Check them out today at rockmountwelding.com and speak to someone on their team about your toughest welding challenges, and they'll help you find a solution to your issue. And if you buy their metalworking consumables on their website, be sure to use ArcJunkies10 at checkout and get 10% off your purchase. Get the job done right the first time, every time with Rockmount. We're also brought to you by Leverack, the ultimate storage solution for your home shop, garage, or your business. Leverack isn't just a shelf for storage, it's a complete storage system. Leverack has taken the best elements of mobile aisle shelving and industrial pallet racking and combined them to give you the most storage capacity in the smallest amount of space. Not sure if the Leverack system's going to hold the weight? It's rated for over 3 tons of capacity, so the weight's not an issue. Each Leverack system is made right here in the USA and built super solid with a clean look to maximize your storage space and keep your shop organized and looking good in the process. You can pick up a turnkey system or customize your own. You can choose from a 7-foot, 8-foot, 10-foot, or 12-foot system to fit your needs. And you even have the option to add a workbench and an overhead lighting lamp. Check out Leverack today and get your shop back in order. We all know a clean shop is a productive shop, and organization is the key to efficiency. Head on over to leverack.com today and find the storage solution you've been looking for. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, Richard, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Jason?
Doing pretty good. So we have a mutual friend. So Stephanie Hoffman is a good friend of mine. I know that you served with her in the military, and her and I were like kicking it around driving down to Houston. We were actually headed out to another friend's place, Outlaw Leather, there in Pasadena, Texas. And I was telling her, I was like, I want to change things up on the podcast a little bit. Instead of having a welder on, I want to bring somebody in that to talk about finance. Because welders, whether they're in school or, they've been on the job for a while, they start working, financial management is a huge issue. And, one of the things that they used to do at the school that I taught at was they had, this financial management guy come in, and he would be there for, probably 2 to 3 hours. But, and I was really hoping to get something out of that, hoping to be able to take something away from the conversation. But it was more of a pitch to, hey, sign up for your local credit union. It wasn't like, here's how to invest your money, or here's, how to make your money work for you. So I was telling Steph, I was like, I want to try and bring somebody on to talk about finances to help these young welders, whether they're just getting out of school and they're making good money, hey, where should you put your money? Or like, if you're a young entrepreneur, how do you invest in your future? Because if you go off on your own, you start your own business, you don't have a 401k anymore. You don't have access to a pension and an annuity. How do we set ourselves up as young business owners to be able to retire one day? Not just like scoop a little bit of money here and there from the company and put it in a savings account, because we all know that you're not earning any interest off a savings account. So how do we get our money to work for us? And Stephanie was like, oh, you got to call my buddy Richard, because he's awesome. He takes care of my finances. He's a super solid dude, served with him overseas, and in the military, and he's got a charming personality. You're gonna love him. And I reached out to you, and you were like, oh, hell yeah, definitely. So yeah, man, let's go ahead and jump into it. Tell me and the listeners a little bit about your background dating. How did you get into finances?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, prior to me being a financial advisor, I was in the Army for 9 years, and when I got out, once my daughter was born, I decided to get out of the military. It was kind of hard deploying all the time once you're a father. And this was back in the day when the Army, we would do like year-long deployments, 13-month deployments. That was like the standard. And so, I decided to get out, and I took my money and I opened up a chain of barbershops. That was actually the business I got famous for. Was the barbershops, right? It was a barbershop and a bar. It was called On Tap Barbershop. It's still around today, which is good. I sold it, and the company's still around, right? And so I started doing that. Joined the local chamber of commerce, got involved in politics, local politics, things like that. And then one day, one of my old soldiers, right, she messaged me on Instagram and just said, "Hey, Sergeant Roybal, can I compete for your business in terms of life insurance?" And I've always been a huge advocate for life insurance, right? Especially being in the military and everything, and knowing how the SGLI that we have, our group life insurance in the military, it's crap. So I bought an outside life insurance policy, and I carried it from the age of 21 all the way till I was 28, and 28, 29, somewhere on there. And anyway, so Mary reached out to me, and I went down to her office, and I gave her my packet, right, from State Farm. And come to find out, I was sold what was called, at the time when they sold it to me, it was called the Infinite Bank, they called it, right? And the reason why they sold it to me was I was shopping for life insurance at the time because I was deploying, and the agent was like, hey, well, Mr. Roybal, look at this, okay? You could buy pure insurance, or you could buy this right here, where we're going to give you a savings account with a guaranteed death benefit, and you're going to put money into this thing, and it's going to accumulate wealth. And as you accumulate cash value in here, you can borrow from it. It's going to grow tax deferred. They sold all these bells and whistles on this life insurance policy. And I said, well, that actually sounds pretty good. It was a great sales tactic for me. And so I carried it for basically 8 years. Well, come to find out, in the cash value section of it, I had to surrender 15 years of my savings. So for the 8 years I owned the policy, I had no money in my savings account.
Damn.
And the worst part about it, there was a active wear and tear clause attached to the life insurance policy. And what it meant is that if I died while serving overseas, they wouldn't have paid my family a penny. So let's put this into perspective now, right? Out of the 8 years that I owned that life insurance policy, 2 of those years I served in Iraq. That's a long time to be in combat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so going those 2 years deployed and knowing they wouldn't have paid out a penny if I would have died, that's what killed me, because it's one thing you rip me off with the money, I could always replace the money. But how do you look at my daughter in the face if I would have died and said, like, hey, we're sorry for your loss. We want to thank you for your father's service, but unfortunately, we don't cover that. And so,
Yeah,
here's a
dad
dollar to
dad
his
had an awesome
GoFundMe.
insurance policy, but there was a little clause in there,
Yeah, and it's in the back somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's what killed me. So immediately, I gave her, because this is so funny. Stephanie can tell you this too, right? Because I have a very outgoing personality. I like going to casinos. I like drinking whiskey. You know what I mean? So I like that, right? And so I always have my social security card with me, because whenever I go to the casinos and I'm playing poker, you hit a jackpot, you have to have your social security card, or they won't pay you out.
Oh, damn.
So I kept my social security, and I always keep a blank check. So I gave her a blank check. I gave her my social security and my ID, and I said, "Fix my life insurance. Give me what you think is suitable. I got to make a phone call." So I called up my insurance agent, and I was confronting him, and I was like, "Hey, bro, like, because this is my sister's friend. This is a family friend. So they, man, like, what the hell's up with your policy, right? Like," and I'm explaining it to him, and he was more concerned of who was reading me my insurance policy and saying, "Well, come in and I'm going to fix it." And I was like, "Why fix it?" I was like, "Bro, like, why would you sell me this crap in the first place?"
Mhm.
So I took Mary to go see the rest of my family, and sure enough, my whole family got ripped off by the industry, right? And I'll be honest with you, Jason, I've never had an enemy a day in my life, right? Until I got introduced to the life insurance industry and how they took advantage of me and my family. And I asked her, "What does it take to be a financial advisor?" She gave me the blueprint. I said, "That's it." She goes, "Yep." And next thing you know, I'll be honest with you, I only got licensed in insurance and investments to put my old buddy, my State Farm agent, out of business. That's the only reason I did. I dedicated a whole year just trolling this guy and just beating him up and destroying everything that he would market to people, and using my policy as an example, like he's a freaking liar, he's this and that. And while doing that, I was able to successfully now start really assisting the working class. Because the truth is, if you come from a family like mine, where you come from a working class family, you see what I mean? We don't have financial resources. We don't get financial education. We're taught, to go to banks, and they teach us to build our credit, which is you got to get in debt to build your credit. So that's we're not taught to build wealth. And as far as financial coaching, most people, like, I have a lot of clients, they go like, "Why was I went to JP Morgan, I went to Merrill Lynch, and they won't sit with me because I don't have 100,000 or $200,000 in cash." Well, 60% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings.
Mhm.
So how many people are out there with 100,000, 200,000 to sit with you so you could build them a blueprint? It's wrong. So they say, "Okay, well, just put your money into the CD account here, and here's a credit card, build up your credit, and you could borrow for the rest of your life." That's wrong. You see? So I went down a rabbit hole. When I started working in finance and seeing the industry for what it was, I went down a big rabbit hole. And next thing you know, I ended up selling my barber shops, and I went full time in finance. And I've been putting insurance agents out of business for the last 4 years, and helping out the working class successfully construct a financial blueprint in a way that makes sense.
That's freaking awesome, man. So, I mean, like, I've heard payback's a bitch, but I mean, like, you went like scorched earth.
Oh yeah, no, I built a reputation around here. And it's funny because now everything's digital, so I can go intrastate now. I'm in license in 24 different states now. And it's funny because everywhere I go now, it's, because you're seeing these insurance agents, they make great content. I'm not gonna lie. It is sexy content, the way that they sell this stuff, right? And it attracts the attention of people because it's called the infinite bank, which is, the banks will do business with you, but how about you become your own bank?
Mhm.
And you see what I mean? And people buy into it, and they market this one book. It's called Be Your Own Bank, and it's self-published. It's not even an accredited book or anything. And they say, this is how the Rockefellers did it. This is how Walt Disney did it. This is the secrets of the rich. But what people don't know is that to get an insurance license, you only got to get a 60% in the state of California. That's it. You pass it. You take a 4 day course, and then you get a 60% on a test. This is how easy the test is, right? Which means it doesn't qualify you for shit in terms of finances. I took my exam that Monday after Super Bowl Sunday, leaving a bar at 6 in the morning. Was like, "Oh shit, I gotta take a test." Took the test, still passed it. That's how easy it is. Like a monkey could take that test. But it's not like, you pass this test, and then the person that took the test says, "Hey, come into this room here. Okay, you got your 60%, you passed it, good. Now we're gonna give you the secrets of the rich. You know what I mean? Like they're
Hmm.
not doing that shit. But they think that, oh, we have an insurance license, well then we have the secrets of the rich. No, you learn to basically rip off the working class with the same exact, sales tactic that has been going on since emancipation.
So
It's the same thing. They wanted to basically, we had a bunch of newly freed slaves after emancipation. In some southern states, black people couldn't open up bank accounts. So Prudential, which is a big insurance company today, they created the first whole life insurance policy. And it was a way for basically people to buy expensive life insurance with very low face amounts. And then when you die, the insurance company takes your savings. It's
damn.
crap, you see?
It's like a Ponzi scam and a pyramid scam all wrapped up into one.
All into one. It's terrible and it's legal. That's the crazy part. You see, and it's made life insurance has made more millionaires than any other industry in the United States. So it's a very, very protected product. When it comes to cash value life insurance is a very protective product. Even though insurance companies get sued all the time for it, and they settle hundreds of $1 million of lawsuits. At the end of the day, it's still legal, and they're going to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it
Yeah, but
because it makes a lot of
for every
money.
case that they lose, they got 100 people lining up to give them their money.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So these guys are making money hand over fist, and it's sad what they do to the working class. But that's where I found my passion was because, I never had an enemy a day in my life until I got introduced to the financial industry, or the life insurance industry. And I took it very personal, especially because I come from a lower Hispanic, household, and lower Hispanic, community and everything. And seeing how we're taken advantage of and stuff, I was pissed. Needless to say, I still get upset, when I think about it. But I have fun doing what I do, though. Like where I get to, basically go sit with somebody, whether they're midway through their financial home, or they're barely starting off. Just like the having the ability to just provide, you know common sense education, to average people that have been basically denied financial education, and seen the results right away, and then seen them tag me on their social media like, "Hey, I'm almost out of debt, or I'm debt free. I have, 9 months, or I have, 6 months of my income saved now. I have all this money put away in my IRAs. I have all these things set up, and they're giving me shout outs and stuff. And these are people that have, I've sat with people before where they said, I don't know anything about finance. I'm dumb when it comes to finance. And I go, give me 2 appointments with you. You're going to be an expert. And I was like, and I'm going to give you the books, the resources, all the tools where all this is going to make sense for you. And I was like, and if you can't, like I always say this, right? Because I look at a lot of financial advisors and they zigzag the shit out of things, right? They go, you put your money here and put it here and put it here and this and that, and they move things around, right? And you borrow from this to put into here. Like the IRS is not, like they think the IRS is stupid, right? But it's like, no, there's something going wrong. If the client can't explain it themselves, there's probably something going wrong here,
Hmm.
And so I've simplified it to a point where all we do is we draw a house. That's it. And everybody could explain that house. Just like building a house, we start with the foundation, and then we just go and we just start working our way up the top. And that's it. And the clients could understand that. As long as they could understand that, I mean, it's very simple.
So now where does one start with this whole process?
So the first thing is the ultimate goal, right, is financial independence. That's the ultimate goal. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old or you're 50 years old. The ultimate goal is financial freedom, which is we got to get to the point in time where we no longer work for money, but when money starts working for us,
Hmm.
right? That is the ultimate goal. Now, you could do that in multiple different ways. You could accumulate, property. You could put money into an IRA. You could put money into a 401k. We have annuities. There's all sorts of things that there's many different avenues you can do. You can build a business, you see? But the point is that it is impractical to assume that someone's going to work every day until the day that they die. You see what I mean? Like, and hopefully not. We all pray to God that we have a long life. You know what I mean? But it's not just having a long life, but we want to have money and time to enjoy that life.
Yeah,
You
everybody
see?
wants to retire
Eh,
at 65 and have like, that last hopefully 15 to 20 years, their golden years, but be able to afford it,
Yeah,
not just, live off your social security, not live off which social security is probably going to be gone by the time, we're eligible for retire, whatever, they bump that
yeah,
up to, it's not staying, at the average age of life expectancy anymore. So, I mean, you
yeah,
want to have money in your golden years to, not just survive, but kind of thrive, like go off and take a trip, like pay, make sure everything's paid off before you get to that point, but
Hmm.
have some financial freedom to where you're not waiting for a check to come in. So, you can decide whether you're going to pay electricity or you're going to pay the mortgage or you're going to pay for your medication.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is remember the one thing that people overlook at that time frame, that period, is that remember when you're 65, you're not going to have the ambition as you did in your 30s, to go to work in the morning. You're going to be burnt out. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So you're going to run into two fears in life, right? And I say the first fear in life is the fear of dying too soon, which is your younger years. Most people have young adult children, things like that. They have a lot of debt. Their finances aren't in order yet. So if they die in their younger years, well then, are they the biggest worry is am I leaving enough money behind to carry on to the next generation? Like am I creating generational wealth? But then the second fear in life, and this is what we're talking about, is the fear of living too long, which is I'm now 65 years old and I'm looking at my accounts and I didn't save enough nowhere near enough money in my younger years. Now I'm 65 years old and I'm looking at my money and I have to pray to God that I die before my money dies. And the reality is that over 70% of Americans are going to be in that boat. You see what I mean? Because by the time, remember, when we think about finance, right? Most people when they're talking about money and stuff or any sort of advice when it comes to money, we're going to get it from three areas. One, we're most likely going to get it from our parents, and if we're being honest with ourselves, our parents really probably don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to finance because they're part of the working class too and they're
Yep.
figuring it out, and they're just telling you, okay, don't make the mistakes that we made, but they still don't know all the answers. And then we go to banks, and banks are telling us, well, just build your credit, get a credit card and build your credit, and then you could finance things in the future, right?
Become wealthy by
And then,
getting in debt. It makes perfect sense.
yeah, yeah, there you go. You could borrow your way into wealth, right? I don't buy into that. You know what I mean? And trust me, I did the Robert Kiyosaki thing for a very long time. But the thing is I don't buy into the idea that you could borrow your way into wealth. It's remember one hiccup and it's gone because it's not real.
Hmm.
And then the last thing is the last place you're going to get is through trial and error. And that's where most people are going to get their financial education from, which is I'm going to screw up my 20s. I'm going to try to fix it in my 30s. And in my 40s, I'm finally in a position where I could do it. But shit, I don't have enough time anymore. Now I'm going to have to put so much money into my retirement and end up with less money. Whereas if I was just an 18-year-old kid, if I started when I was 18 years old and someone taught me how to put away $200 every single month, by the time I'm 67, I could have 16 mil, upward of $16 million. But then you have to start in your 40s putting away 1,000, and you're probably going to end up with about 2 million. You see? So it
Damn.
costs us so much money. And then it's like, how do we get to the point where we can even save that much money? You see?
Hmm.
That's why I started teaching at my old high school. I started the entrepreneur financial education program there. And that was entirely by accident. And the reason why we did that was because one of my old teachers, he was an English teacher, and he just said, "Hey, Rich, he came to my barber shop and was like, hey, I have a creative writing class and I want the students, to interview people." And he goes, "I'll be honest with you, most of the people that come in, they're old." So like the students don't relate to them. There's too big of an age gap. And, it's like, they're not really interested in interviewing these people. Right. And he goes, "Would you mind if the students came and interviewed you?" At the time I was in my late 20s. And I said, "Yeah, I'll pop in, and I'll let the students interview me. That'll be pretty cool." And it was always supposed to be for one day. I stayed for a whole week, right? And we went into like all kinds of good conversations with the kids and got to relate to them, because I came from the same background. That was a good thing. I came from the same background, and I came from, not the best type of, didn't come from the best type of household, we could call it. So you're relating with kids in multiple different, areas of their lives. So we're talking about this stuff. And then one of the students asked me on the last day, if there's anything you could change about the school curriculum, what would it be? And I said, I wish that they would teach you guys entrepreneurship and financial education. And they said, well, why? And I said, number one, I was like, you live in a capitalist country and none of you guys are taught to be capitalists. You guys are all taught right here to go work for somebody and make somebody else rich. That's a big problem. And I was like, and the second thing is that the vast majority of you, over 90% of you, will fail financially, in the future. And you're going to be dependent on some sort of government system because you guys have never been taught financial education, you know? And I would argue that that's not done by accident, but that's done by
No,
design.
it's definitely
You
done
see?
intentionally. I mean, like that's what the government want. I don't want to get off on like a tangent, but I mean, like they
Mm,
want really good taxpayers, so they don't teach you about entrepreneurship. They don't teach you about financial management or financial responsibility because
mm,
if you're in debt, you're going to work harder, and the harder you work, the less that you invest, the more I can tax you. So I mean, the
mhm.
school system isn't designed to make entrepreneurs and people that are financially savvy. Hell, even when you get up into college classes, they're just designed to make really good taxpayers.
Yeah, I knew that because that's why I dropped out of college. Right when I got out, I thought I was going to use and it was so funny because I didn't get an Army signing bonus when I first joined. It was just I got the Army College Fund, they called it, right? So you had the GI Bill, and then you have the Army College Fund. And I was like, man, I'm gonna go be a doctor, and I don't know what I was gonna do something in law enforcement, right? I was gonna go to the top of my education, right? And then I get out and I started going to college here in Southern California, and I was all like, man, this is just like a school that teaches me how to be a communist, basically. Like, this is like,
Pretty
by this
much.
point, I was in my mid to late 20s. So, and I remember I was an intelligence analyst, so I was already proficient in geopolitics and all that. And I was like, basically, you're just teaching me how to be, one, a victim. I'm a victim here, and two, I'm a communist. Like that's it. This is like
Started
the most
sniffing out their
anti
bullshit really quick.
real quick. That's why I got kicked out. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm done with this. I was like, I feel like I was like, I'm wasting my time here. And the day that I realized I was wasting my time in college was when I was taking an entrepreneurship class, and I asked the teacher, who was just saying entirely wrong information on how to become an entrepreneur, right, and how to build a business. And I said, so according to those numbers and those statistics, someone like me that comes from my background, and then the fact that I'm Hispanic, I was like, I have no shot in life, basically. Like, there's no way. And this is by the time by this happened, I already owned my second company. And I was like, so there's no way in hell someone like me can be an entrepreneur. And they said, well, you're the exception, not the rule. And I go, no, there's no exception. Don't do that shit to me, because that's disrespectful. Now you're saying that, okay, now, okay, you got lucky. No, you don't get lucky in business.
Hmm.
Because before I got lucky in business, you don't forget, I had a company. I opened up a trucking company one time. I never talk about it, right? I opened up a trucking company, had a grand opening, grand closing in the same year. Biggest freaking money pit I've ever started, right? So don't tell me I got lucky, because I've gone through the phases of an entrepreneur. I created a business that failed. I created another one, I failed. Created a third. Oh, look at it work. You see what I mean? And so I've gone through the phases of entrepreneurship, of winning and losing, right? And I've learned along the way. But I noticed that when I was taking that class, and I asked the professor, I said, "Do you own any businesses?" She goes, "No, I don't own any businesses." And I said, "Do you have any investments or anything and stuff? Like, do you invest in such?" She goes, "No, I got my pension from the thing. I don't have to invest. The college has my pension and all this stuff, right?" And I said, "So you're probably the least person to be the least qualified person to talk about entrepreneurship." And she goes, "But I have a degree." I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! I can't do this no more." I don't mean to cuss on the show, but I was
No,
just
no,
like,
have
"Get
at
out of
it.
here!" Like,
Degrees don't mean
yeah, I was like,
shit.
"They
I've
don't." I
worked
was
with a
like,
lot of educated people that are probably the dumbest people I've ever met in my life.
yeah, they have no common sense, and it was so funny, right? Because this is what blows my mind about, like, the remember, I'm a blue collared worker. I came from being a barber. You see what I mean? I'm a barber by trade. I started when I was a kid, sweeping hair and shining shoes when I was 13 years old, and then they apprenticed me to be a barber before I left to the army. So I got licensed when I was in high school. You see, but the thing is that, when I got out, I went back to barber. And it's so funny because people think of, like, it could be like anything, like being a welder, being a barber, any plumber. I have a buddy of mine who's a plumber, makes 300,000 a year. You know what I mean? Myself as a barber, even without me owning the barber shops, like opening the barber shops, I was still making six figures. And what did I? Oh, I got a license when I was in high school. Yeah, but you don't have a degree. You missed the point.
Yeah,
I make six figures, and I'm in my 20s.
you got lucky.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, you got lucky. You're the
You got lucky.
exception, not the rule.
You're the
Yeah.
exception.
But then I have a buddy of mine who's a plumber, and he started off working with his dad, in a job. They're working for a small company. And then he finally saved up money and said, why don't we just build up our own truck and build our own business? Let's go to business for ourselves. So they did their own thing and stuff. And now they own like five trucks. They make he nets 300,000 a year. He's a plumber. But people look at that as like, that's not an honorable job. You don't have a degree. You don't work in an office. You're missing the point. He doesn't do anything anymore. He spends time with his kids all day. He doesn't do the plumbing work anymore. He owns a plumbing company
Hmm.
and still nets 300,000, not doing anything. He's financially free in his 30s and doesn't do anything. and all because he was a plumber.
Yeah,
You see, he
that's
didn't go.
something that
He didn't.
educated people say to other people to make themselves feel good about accumulating massive amounts of debt and having a small pension to
Mhm.
fall back on.
Absolutely, there you go. And that's my biggest criticism. Like, a lot of my biggest critics are usually people with degrees because they try to, devalue what I do, or like say, well, discredit me, right? And they say, well, he doesn't have a degree in finance. Okay, go sit with a guy who has, 6 years, got his master's degree in finance, and now works for Merrill Lynch, and see if he'll give you 10 minutes of his time when you don't even have two nickels rubbed together. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
Because he's been taught for the last 6 years how to service a certain breed of client that doesn't exist for the working class. You see what I mean? Because people are not leaving college making six figures; they're leaving college and working entry level jobs. You see? So if you want the guy that's credible, because he went to school for it. I'm not saying he knows more than me, but I'm just saying because he has the validation in terms of a degree. We have the same licenses, but he has the degree.
Mhm.
Well, let's see if the guy with the degree is going to sit with you, and let's see how much he charges you per hour. When I'm over here, like, yeah, let's sit down, let's do a Zoom, 30 minutes, I'll teach you for free. And this, if you want to do business with me, let's do business. If not, hey, no worries, you left with some good education.
Yeah, but
See?
that's why I'm a huge proponent more of certificates than degrees, because a
Yeah,
certificate
hell yeah.
shows proficiency, whereas a degree, I mean, honestly, like you showed up every day, you did really good on test day, but you have absolutely zero experience. Like I went
Yeah.
to school, I got a bachelor's in construction management, but like I'm sitting in class, like damn near ready to graduate, and they're explaining to people how to use a redhead anchor, for like structure or like concrete and stuff. And I'm like, these
Uh,
are things like if you're in this class, you should know this. You should have experience at least, drilling some holes and driving these things in. They had zero experience with any of this stuff. And I was like, damn, you guys are getting ready to graduate and go out into the workforce, and you're going to look down on the people that do this for a living. Like, cause I'd show up to class
mhm.
every day. Like I get, like salt stains on my shirt, because I've been sweating all freaking day, and like my blue jeans are just freaking rank, and I got mud on my boots. Like I just got done with the experience. Now I'm trying to get the documentation that says I know how to do all this. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
really counterintuitive, and then you accumulate a lot of debt, kind of chasing that degree.
Yeah. You see, and that's it's so funny because I have a lot of my students at the high school. They go into trade schools, right? Right off the back, and I tell this. I'm a big advocate for trades. I say they go, well, what should I do with my life after high school? I go to trade school or join the military.
Yeah,
Believe what your teacher told you, which is, well, go to college and then you'll figure it out there. Fuck no, you know how expensive that is?
yeah.
That is such an expensive, screwed up learning lesson to say, oh, well, go to college and you'll figure it out while you're in college. No. Like if I'm gonna figure something out, go to the military, go travel, go to war for a few years and stuff, and then come back and then you'll figure it out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's or go get a trade. Go get a trade. Like what do you like to do? I don't know. I like, like right now out here in Southern California, every girl's doing lashes now, eyelashes, right? So that's a new thing. It's a popular thing, makeup and eyelashes, right? So a lot of the female, students are like, well, I like doing lashes and makeup, and I was like, then why don't you just go get your certificates for that then?
Yeah.
Pay $200, get your certificates, and then boom, now you have an eyelash business, and then you could figure it out.
Hmm.
And then if you
Set up
want
an
to open up your own
LLC and start
studio and
doing them.
hire
Yeah,
people,
yeah. Set up an LLC,
boom, there
start
you
doing
go.
that
Set
shit
up
in
an
your house,
LLC.
and then boom, next thing you know, you start getting, accumulating a little bit of wealth. You open up a storefront,
Yeah,
or you run a
there
mobile
you go.
business. Then you
Exactly.
don't have the overhead capital to deal with.
There you go. You see, and that's what I said is like you do that, and I was like, you'd be better off. And they go, well, you're telling them not to go to school. I was like, I didn't say not to go to school. I told them to get a trade. They want to go to college, during some time. That's fine. Let them go to college. But I'm not going to say go to college and figure it out. Get yourself in 100 grand in debt to go figure it out.
Hmm.
If I'm going to get myself in 100 grand in debt, I'm going to take a risk and build a business. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go do that so I could appease, the academics. I'm not going to do that. I don't need I don't need people's validation that bad.
Hmm.
I'd rather have the money. I'd
Yeah,
rather have the money than the validation.
yeah. I'd rather have a fat stack in the bank account than a degree up on the wall any day.
Exactly. I remember when I got kicked out of this for-profit school because I got kicked out of 3 colleges, right? And so I went to a for-profit school, the last one. And remember, by this time, I'm already desensitized. 2 years of war desensitizes you. My humor's all screwed up.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to say the
no
most
emotions.
politically incorrect stuff. Yeah, I have no emotions, and I'm not. And then the worst thing is don't tell me to do something to like basically kiss someone's ass because I'm going to say it in the most funniest, polite way.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Tactfully
So I
disrespectful.
kind of did the whole. Yeah, and I did the whole Ron Swanson thing, right? This is funny. And so they asked me because I had to go when I switched to the school, they have to put you through a college introduction class, right? And I'm going through this college introduction class, and they say, we want you guys to do a 5-page essay in MLS format on how your degree is going to benefit you and what you're going to do with it after you graduate, right? And I was like, oh my God, this shit. At this point, when I was going to class, I was only going there because my GI Bill, because I got my BAH,
Yeah.
to basically go to school to get a C, right? That's it. You just have to get a C. And they were giving me, basically almost $3,000 a month just to get a C. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do it, whatever, right? So I get the essay, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time on this shit. So I put MLS format, and I did all the stuff, and I put it won't dot dot dot, and then I put resources page, and all that and stuff, and I submitted it in. So then I had to go see my counselor, right? And they sent me to the counselor, and the counselor was like, Mr. Roybal, we don't find this funny. We feel like you're not taking this opportunity serious, and this, and that, and everything. And I just shot him straight. I was like, look, let's just call it what it is. Okay, this is a business, right? College is a business. This is a bank. Okay, we're not. Don't give me the bullshit that what am I gonna do with my degree? Because you don't give two shits about what I do after college. None of you guys care about that.
Yeah, as long as you start making
put that up
payments
front.
6 months after you graduate.
You're right. And I go, let's be honest. I've been kicked out of 2 colleges. This is my 3rd one. You guys have all accepted me without a placement test because I'm a guaranteed check by the government. That's the only reason why. If I didn't have that GI Bill, you would be treating me just like everybody else, and I'd be on a wait list. But I'm not in a wait list. Every time I apply for college, I was like, you guys accept me on the spot. I even made a joke. I was like, you want me to go apply at UCLA real quick to see if they take me? I can go to fucking med school right now. They'll still take me. And they want to give me a placement test. And I'll be in the front of the line. Why? It has nothing to do with my academics. It has to do with the fact that he has a GI Bill. We're just going to put him in the front of the line.
That check's going to clear.
That's all it is. Yeah, exactly. The check's going to clear.
And as long as we turn in attendance, it's going to keep coming in.
Exactly. And they, like I said, and they could charge the government more than they charge the other students. So I said, let's just be honest. You get a check, and I'm only here for a check. Okay? I'm not going to waste my time doing over and above things and stuff like that. And I was like, and I'll be honest with you. And I was like, you want to know the value that this degree is going to have for me? I was like, I wouldn't even hang it on my refrigerator. That's how much value this degree is going to have for me. So let's just call it what it is. I'm here for money. You're here for money. Why don't we just act like, why don't we just, not bullshit each other and, basically call it what it is. This is just a check. I'm going to do the bare minimum to get a C, and I'm going to pass through this. And then at the end of it, when I graduate, you can look at veteran statistics, and you can advertise on your website, and you can recruit more and more veterans to bring the GI Bill money here, which I'm all for because they're going to get money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all like, no, this is not how colleges work, and this, and that, and da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, then explain to me why I still haven't taken a placement test, but I've been kicked out of 3 colleges. I'm not even on a probation. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, college, it's without a doubt, it's a bank, So I've been a big advocate for trade schools and getting your certificates. You know what I mean? Because one, they're inexpensive, and right away you can start making money.
Yeah.
And you work for yourself. And this is one thing that I've noticed is that people are scared to work for themselves. They're afraid to be self-employed. They're afraid, because you work on commission. You see what I mean? You're paid for your effort, not your time. See, when you work a job, you're getting paid for your time. No matter if, I knew this in the military. You could work. It's so funny, right? Because when I figured this out, I was like, screw this. I'm gonna do this. Remember, even in the military, when you're in basic training, Joe starts to tell you, don't try to stand out. Don't try to stand out.
Yeah,
like,
you want to fly under the radar.
Fly under the radar, right? You're gonna get paid the same anyways. But I've noticed this, right? Is that no matter how hard you worked, from the hardest working person to the laziest one, y'all got paid the same. We all got paid the same. And so when in a job, it's no different. If you're working a 9-to-5 job, you're paid for your time, not your effort. You see? But when you're self-employed, that's why I love sales so much, because in sales, it's the most rewarding hard work and the most unrewarding non-work. So if you work hard, you're gonna make a shitload of money. And if you don't work hard, you're lazy, you don't make no money.
Mm.
You see? And so that's what I love about the trade schools, is because if you're a hardworking person, go get your certifications and go work for yourself. Go be self-employed and take the risk, And people's biggest objection is, well, where do I get the experience? Like, where do I get the experience of working for myself? You go work for yourself. Where do I get the experience of building a business? Go build a business. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Just do it. You'll figure it out. You will figure it, just like I figured it out. Are you going to fail? Yeah, you're going to fail more than you succeed. But it's like playing the slot machines. You know what I mean? You're going to suck for a while, then you hit the big jackpot and it feels good. And then you just keep playing it. And then
But
you
you're
just
gonna
keep learning and learning as you go.
along the way, you're gonna learn from those failures. And that's one thing I preach on the podcast all the time is like, I'd rather fail at something than succeed like right off the rip. Because I'm gonna learn so much,
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn so many more, skills through failure. And every one of those failures,
Uh-huh.
it's just gonna be a stepping stone towards success.
hmm Absolutely. I remember, I'll give you a good story, right? When I went through my divorce, this was back in 2000. It was a while ago. I was like 25 when I was going through my divorce, right? And typical military story, got out and everything, and and just we went through our divorce, right? But I got wiped out, right? I got wiped out clean, and I that was my first time experiencing rock bottom as an adult on my own, and so I lost everything overnight, right? And I remember moping around and feeling like shit and everything. I did this for months. I went through a depression where I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do anything, right? And my barber shop was only a week open in business when this happened, when I got wiped out. And so it was bad. And I was on the verge of closing the doors on my barber shop, not because it wasn't successful, not because people didn't want it. It was because my head wasn't in the game. You see, I was neglecting, my main source or my main, my life support basically. And my grandfather was alive at the time. He was my father, you know what I mean? And so he had a porch, right? And he was sitting outside, he was smoking a cigarette. I swear to God, this guy's diet, I don't know how he lived that long. He should donate his body to science because his diet was nothing but black coffee and tobacco and bacon and eggs. That's it. He ate the same shit every single day, right? And chili, lots of chili. So I don't know how somehow it kept him. And it's funny, he died later of lung cancer, but everything else, he was not diabetic, none of that. But anyways, that's another story in itself. They need to donate his body to, science because he died, healthy as a horse until he quit smoking. Then he died of lung cancer,
Yeah.
which is funny. But anyway, so he was smoking on the porch, right? And I was just sitting there and I was smoking a cigarette too. And why you walk around here looking all sad and shit all the time? You just look sad. Like you want people to feel sorry for you? Like, why you walking around sad, right? And I'm like looking at him like fool, I'm broke. Like I have nothing to my name. I have nothing in my bank account. I have nothing going on for me. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was just feeling sorry for I was putting on a parade for everybody to see that poor Richard is fucking broke. Okay. And I did it for 6 months. I was in this funk, right? And then he goes, you know how lucky you are to experience rock bottom at 25 years old? He goes, could you imagine being 45 years old and experiencing rock bottom? He goes, you have no idea how lucky you are to experience what you're feeling now at 25 years old because you have your entire life to fix it and to never feel that way again. And he goes, I don't feel sorry for you because you have a business right now. He goes, you're not broke. You have a business. You just don't want to go to work. Just say it. You're just fucking lazy. You don't want to go to work. And I was like, damn, all right. But it made sense. And I was like, yeah, you're fucking right. Like, you're right. You know what I mean? Because he kept saying, no matter how hard you cry, that money ain't coming back. So what are you crying about? Go fix it. It ain't coming back. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you a story about the dog on the nail because it reminds me of that, right? But anyway, so when I was building up, I within a matter of 2 years, I accumulated, another, 120 some thousand in cash. Plus, I had a lot of, cash flow coming in. Business was going great within 2 years, right? And my dad convinced me, let's open up a trucking company because he worked in trucking, right? And me and my dad had just rekindled our relationship, and I was like, damn it, my mom was convincing me, and I was like, you know what, you should, open up a business with your dad. And I was like, yeah, but to buy a truck, that's 120 some grand I have to put out. You know what I mean? To do this stuff, it's a big investment. After I just rebuilt and everything, like, well, it's your dad. He knows what he's doing. My dad didn't know shit, right? So we opened up this trucking company, and I swear to God, we had the grand opening and grand closing in the same year, right? And I remember when the thing shut down, I was signing the closing paperwork, right? When it was all done, and I was laughing, like hysterically, right? And I read a lot, and my mom was right there standing next to me, and she was crying, she was sad because like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, like, like I thought it was gonna be different, and I was laughing, right? I was cracking up, and it reminded me of this story. I don't know if you ever read. I think it's The Alchemist. I think it's The Alchemist. It's
Yes.
either The Alchemist or the richest man in Babylon. One of the two. And there's a story in one of those. I get them confused. The stories a lot, but in one of the two books, they talk about the when the kid is trying to basically build his wealth, and he's saving his money, and he's lending people money, and he's accumulating interest on it, right? And then finally, he builds out enough money and he runs into this bricklayer. And the bricklayer convinces him to give him money so he can go to North Africa and basically mine for jewels. Right. And he says, this is how much we're going to make and blah, blah, blah. So he takes the money, gives it to him, and the guy never comes back and he loses everything. So I think it's The Richest Man in Babylon.
Just The Richest Man in
and
Babylon.
So then, yeah, is that one, right?
Yeah.
So then the man comes back and he sees him later and he says, well, how did it go? He goes, well, I was making money. And then, I gave the rest of my money. I made a lot. Then I gave it to the bricklayer to go get jewels, and he never came back, and I lost everything. He goes, what you said didn't work. And he says, why would you give the bricklayer money to go mine for jewels? Why didn't you go to the jewel miner to, mine for jewels and invest in the bricklayer for bricks? He goes, why would you do that? So the reason I was cracking up, because it's funny, because it was a stupid investment to begin with. It was destined to fail. So it was funny. So I was sending my business closing paperwork and stuff. And my mom's like crying. I'm laughing. And she goes, I don't know how you find this funny. And I said, because I gave my money to the bricklayer. And I was like, the reason why this is funny for me is because I needed this to happen. I needed to make one stupid financial mistake to really understand the value of this shit. And I was like, the reason why I'm laughing is because I'm about to be richer beyond my means now. And I was like, this had to happen. And that's how I was laughing. I was like, I gave my money to the bricklayer, and that's it. She didn't get it. Yeah, and I was like, so now, and it's so funny because since that day, I always look past it, but since that day, my income has skyrocketed. Everything has been good in business, and not only that, because I'm so much wiser when it comes to money and finance and everything. It's just life has gotten way better. You know what I mean? But guess what? I was one of those people that I had to get kicked in the nuts a few times in order to kind of realize, like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I'm a spiritual man. I am a Christian, and I do believe that God has a sense of humor, and when you're hard headed, He's gonna give you those little nut checks to kind of say, okay, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna just follow your plan. You know what I mean? I'm gonna humble myself.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools, makers of my favorite fabrication tools, tables, and fixturing accessories. Strong Hand has an awesome promotion to share with listeners of the Arc Junkies podcast. They have 5 new toolkits and welding tables on sale right now when you go to stronghandtools.com/promo. Get 10% off and free shipping right now, but you gotta hurry. These deals are gonna end September 30th. Look, we all use earplugs to protect our hearing, safety glasses to keep debris and spatter out of our eyes, jackets and gloves to protect us from UV light. But what are we doing to protect our lungs? 90% of our daily breathing occurs through our nose. That's why there's O2 Armor, a concealed filter that fits just inside your nose and filters out dust, fumes, pollen, and other airborne particulate down to 2.5 microns. Check these filters out today at o2armor.com and save 10% off with your purchase when you use Arc Junkies 10 at checkout. You can either breathe it in or block it with O2 Armor. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. They just released the all-new Power MTS 141 SI. Now you can run a multi-process machine on a standard 120-volt outlet, giving you access to stick, MIG, TIG, and upgradable spool gun capabilities. This complete system is on sale right now for just $5.99 at everlastwelders.com. This is the perfect machine for students, home hobbyists, and makers, and it only weighs 30 pounds and takes up 1.4 square feet of space in your garage or small shop. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back into the show. Now, where does somebody start? So, like, let's start off with like the young student that's coming out of like trade school. They go in, they get their certificate, they're making a little bit of money, and maybe they're staying at home with mom and dad, or they've got a little, a couple extra bucks left over at the end of the month, with the mortgage and pre-spouse, pre-kids and all that stuff. Like, where do they start saving up? Because you had mentioned at the age of 18, you start putting away $200 a month. You got $16 million by the time you retire.
Yeah. Projected, that's not guaranteed.
Roughly. Inflation's a bitch, but
Yeah. So, but essentially, it goes back to the financial house, right? So let's picture a house, and we're going to draw a house, And on the top of that house, let's put financial freedom on the top of it, right? That's the ultimate goal. Financial freedom takes time. And the problem with time is that that's the one thing that's not guaranteed. Anything could happen to us at any time. Like we could, live to be 100, we could die in 10 years, we could die tomorrow. But all we know is that time is going to run out for every single one of us, right? So since we know that time is the one thing that, is not guaranteed, then what we have to first do is protect the most precious asset that we own right now against time, and that's our income. And so what I always recommend, whether they're 18, they're 40, it doesn't matter. Everybody should have a term life insurance policy. And I only recommend term. That's the only life insurance out there. That because it's pure insurance, there's no bells and whistles. Now, why do we want to do that? Because whether they're 18 or they're 40 years old, let's say they're 18 years old, at some point or another, they're going to have a family. Let's say they're 30 years old, they get married, they have children, right? Or if they're in their 30s, they now have children, they have, that. They're going to need to increase that policy to a bigger, to a big boy policy. Let's say they're 18, they buy $100,000 policy, it costs them $20, which is nothing. You know what I mean? That's like a drop in the bucket now. I just spent $20 on my lunch right now, you know what I mean, with inflation as it is now, right? So $20 a month is what it costs them to protect themselves for 100,000 if they, God forbid, they die. But the reason why we want it when we're young and healthy is because, we're locking in our rates at a very young age. So when now they're 30 years old and they have a family and they need a big boy policy, let's say $1 million, they're rated as an 18-year-old, not a 30-year-old. You see what I mean? So that saves them thousands of dollars in the long run. So we want to lay a foundation, a solid foundation with a term life insurance policy. Then after that, what we want to do is we want to create a budget because we have to inventory what's coming in and what's going out. The one thing I loved about my grandfather is that every time he would, spend money at the store, he always had it's like his shirts always had a pocket, right? His shirts always, and then he would take out his pocket and that was his checkbook and he would write down what he spent at the store and then how much he had in his account. And then he put it back in his pocket, right? And then he would inventory everything at the end. But it's no wonder he always had money, you see, because he had inventory of it, you see? So inventory, what is going in and what is going out, and identifying where you're overspending and start, tackling those issues now. We should have an emergency fund put away, which consists of 3 months of expenses. Now, if they're self-employed, you should have 6 months of expenses. If your income is fixed, 3, but if you're self-employed, 6. The reason why is because when you're self-employed, especially at the beginning, and business is not consistent, where your income, you could make 5,000, 10,000, 2,000, no 1,000. That's how being self-employed is at the beginning. You could have big months, dead months. It is what it is. Until you build your business, it's gonna skyrocket like that. So you should have 6 months of expenses saved. Then you should have a will set up because guess what? You're gonna die. You should at least be in control of where that money goes. You see, no matter the age, the goal is we're leaving wealth behind. The next thing I like to talk about is living absolutely debt free in terms of bad debt. You see, like credit cards, things like that. Things that you're buying a bunch of liability, you're financing a bunch of liabilities. So let's just eliminate that in general. You want a liability, go ahead and pay cash. You see what I mean? Or but the main thing is you want to use the bulk of your money to accumulate assets over time. So the way that we do that is through the 2 other fundamental accounts. That is the short-term investment account, and that's just a standard mutual fund, right? That's just no, there's no bells and whistles to it, no sexy tax credits, none of that. It's an investment portfolio that is diversified and it's professionally managed, right? So we don't have to manage it ourselves. And what we're going to do is we want that for short-term purchases, but we want easy access to that. So if I need to make the purchase, the IRS isn't telling me, well, you got to wait 10 years. No, if I want my money, I can just pull it out. But at least it's growing more than what a bank account's going to do, right? But within 3 to 5 years, I like to train people, just try not to touch it for the next 3 to 5 years. Let's just give ourselves some options. Let's build up at least 6 months of our income in that account, right? We want 6 months of income in that account. And then your wealth building account, this is your individual retirement accounts, this is your 401ks, all of that. This is money for tax deferment reasons, which is let's get the government out of our pocket as much as we can.
Good
you
plan.
see, this is the money that's the money that's going to retire you one day, right? Now, if you're working a 9 to 5, you should have a 401k set up at work, right? Whether they're matching it or not. And the reason why is because you can contribute as of right now, $20,500 every year into the 401k. And you should try every effort to maximize that as much as you can. Whether you can call in your HR and say, hey, I want to file my taxes exempt all year round, I'll pay my taxes at the end of the year because I want to write off another 20 some thousand of my taxable income. Most people don't know they could do that. You see, so we could write that off.
Say that
You
one
see,
more time, just because that's a key
yeah,
point.
yeah. So when you're getting paid every single paycheck, right? The government takes their portion out right off the top. You don't have to. You don't. That's voluntarily. Most people think that, well, that's just how it is. No, you volunteer into that. Just most people that do HR, they just do it because they don't trust you to pay your taxes at the end. What I tell people to do is, no, screw the government. I'll tell you how much I'm going to pay you at the end. So what I do is I tell people, file your taxes exempt all year round. So now you keep all your money. But because of that, I want you to maximize what you're putting in your income taxes, maximize your 401k, and then maximize your IRA. Put another 6 grand in there. That's 27,500 you could actually write off. Let's say you're making 60 grand. You just wrote off now, 20. Let's say you did 20 grand. Your taxable income now is $40,000. You see what I mean? So yeah, you might get hit with a bill at the end of the year, but you're paying taxes on 40,000 versus 60,000. Think you'll work out a payment plan with the IRS and say, okay, cool, I'll pay you out for the rest of the year,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, right? And that's it. You're going to be paying a whole lot less money in income taxes plus other write-offs and everything as well. Now, if you're self-employed, I recommend opening up what is called a SEP IRA. And a SEP IRA is for self-employed people where you're able to put 20% of your income into that individual retirement account up to $62,000 a year. Now that's huge because for self-employed people, what's our biggest concern? How much can we write off? You see? Well, what if we could automatically put 20% of our income just before we even touch it? It goes right into our retirement. That's already one write-off right there. So whatever I make, let's say 100,000, automatically 20,000 I just wrote off in my retirement. Now I'm going to pay tax on 80,000. Plus I get all the depreciation and all the other things that I get. I don't pay income taxes, you see? And the reason I don't pay income taxes is because I have so many write-offs, you see? But one of the biggest write-offs is my SEP IRA. You see, that's huge for me, you see? So those are the three fundamental accounts I recommend, but following it in that order. Start by protecting your income. That's the most precious asset you own, okay? If you have a mortgage, like let's say now, because we're talking about an 18-year-old. Let's say we're talking to a 30-year-old who's married with children now, okay? If you have children, you're married, you should protect your income with 10 to 12 times the amount of your annual gross. So if you make, $50,000 a year, you should have anywhere between $500 to $600,000 in life insurance coverage. This way, if you pass, your income is immediately replaced. Your family doesn't have to worry about you. Obviously, they're going to be devastated with your passing, but they don't have to worry about the financial aspect of your passing.
Same
See what I
thing.
mean?
You set that up with a term life insurance policy?
Yeah, with term because it's very inexpensive and the client gets a lot of coverage. And with the money that we're saving, we're going to use that money to now start building our financial home. So that's where we're going to get the money to now start building up our emergency fund, our short-term investments, and our wealth building accounts. That's the IRA and all that. You see? Now, if they follow the system correctly, well, then they're ultimately going to lead to financial freedom. And the good thing is that, when we're looking at people that are, interested in building up their financial home, I always ask, what are your top 3 financial goals? Most people are going to say the same goals, which is I want to buy a house or I want to buy a second property. I want to build a business. I want to buy a car. I want to put my kids through college and I want to get out of debt. It's so funny. The working class has the very same goals, you see, and it all leads to one thing, financial independence. I want to buy a house. I want to buy another property. Usually as soon as my clients already buy a house, they're already focused on how do I save money to buy a second one? I want to buy another property. I want to start creating residual income for myself. You see, and that's what I love about being, self-employed. Let's say for the people that are on the podcast that are welders, they're self-employed. The best benefit of that is that you pay a lot less in income taxes and all these things that you're putting your money into, these investments, and all this, it's all a write-off. So you actually are in the best advantage because you could take the bulk of your money and you could really start building financial freedom much faster than somebody that works a 9 to 5. Because at the end of the day, it's the working man who pays income taxes. It's the one that works the 9 to 5. They pay income taxes. It's not the business owner. It's not the guy who owns his own job. They're not the ones who pay income taxes. It's the person that works the 9 to 5. They're the ones who get screwed. Let's just call it what it is. That's why the system rewards the entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur will create a business and employ 20 people. The IRS is not worried about taxing the one entrepreneur. They're worried about taxing the 20 employees. They want the 20 workers. That's it, because that's where the money's at. Not by taxing the one person. You know, I'd rather take a small percentage of more people than a big percentage off of one person. That's how they see it. That's why no matter who's in office, they're all full of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's tax the rich. You're never gonna do it. You're never gonna do it because we all know why. Because at the end of the day, your money doesn't come from rich people. Your money comes from the rich people who are from the people who rich people employ.
You'd have to
That's it.
rewrite the
That's where your money
entire
comes.
tax code. That's kind of what I found out as like setting up my small business now is you can
Mhm.
actually open up, 4 or 5 businesses, and I can open up a holdings company to kind of
Mhm.
manage those 4 or 5 businesses and like rent my own equipment from myself. And
Yeah.
it's all a tax write off. And it's like, what the fuck? Is that even legal? Yeah, that's in the tax
Yeah.
code. So like you were saying, like why tax the 1%, instead of like taxing the other 99%, you'd have to
Yeah.
rewrite the entire tax code to hit that 1%. And at the end of the day, they're
Yeah.
still gonna screw, the working man.
Yeah. Because all they're gonna do is just hire an attorney to figure out a loophole.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? We don't have the loop. We don't have the attorneys for that, you know? So for people that are starting off, just follow the system. That's what I love about America, right? Because America's it's a place where you are born in a free country, right? But I always say this, just because you're born in a free country doesn't mean that you're free, you know? And I go, you have to buy your freedom here. And if you're working in a system where let's say it's a 9 to 5 job, and someone is paying you for their time, well, just like if I buy anything else, if I'm paying somebody for something, well, then I own your time. I own your time. If I'm buying your time, I own your time. Therefore, I own you. You know, and what I love about the United States is because you could be self-employed, you could be a business owner, right? And by being a business owner, now it's like I don't, I'm in absolute control of my time and my money. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about it. Because the way that I make money now is not by earned income; it's through passive income through my business. You see, so I can go on a vacation. Like I just went to Lake Tahoe for a week, and then went to Colorado Springs. Stayed at the Broadmoor for another week. So I went 2 weeks in a row. I'll never do that again. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how people go longer than a weekend. The whole time I was there, right when I hit Colorado, I would enjoy Colorado a lot more if I would have just went to Colorado and skipped Lake Tahoe. But I would have enjoyed Lake Tahoe a lot more if I did think of, damn, I got another week of vacation. It's so weird how my brain works now. I'm
Mhm.
in work mode all the time, right? But I don't have to work. That's the funny thing. I don't have to work anymore. The business runs itself. But it feels good that even like when you go, on vacation and everything like that, you have income still coming in. I was like, it's like your bank it never goes dry. It just keeps filling up and filling up and filling up, whether you're working or not. The whole time I was smoking cigars and drinking whiskey in Colorado.
That doesn't
You know what
sound
I
like a
mean?
bad gig at
And
all.
no, it was good. And then you check, oh look, we just got another check that came in, another check and another check. That feels good, and to me that's the American dream right there, having financial freedom where you no longer have to work for money when money starts working for you, or you have a system like a business that's actually working for you. That's the American dream.
So now, what are some of the other aspects? Like you're talking about putting your money to work for you. What are some of the other avenues? Because I know we've got things like cryptocurrency, we've got the stock market, you got penny stocks, or any of that. Like any of those, like good advice for anybody that has like some money to, like let's say we already put away that 200 bucks per week, or I'm sorry, 200 bucks per month, or $1,000 per month. Let's say we got some additional income. Like what else can we invest that in aside from the term life insurance policy, and then setting up our 401k and all that other stuff? Where else can we invest our money to let it work for us?
So with those things like that, right? Like I'm not opposed to like things like crypto. I'm not opposed to even buying individual stock. Like I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. I don't do it personally. I'll be honest with you. Personally, that's not in my. I don't budget for that stuff at all. I'd rather go play poker. If that makes sense. That's my thing. And so I say this right. Is that if you're going to go and invest in those things like individual stocks and crypto and all that, I say do that with your entertainment money. You know what I mean? Don't do it with the money you have to rely on. Like the stuff that I was looking at building the financial home, those are strategies so that way you could get bigger purchases in the long run. Like I have my short term investment. I'm doing this because I want to accumulate land. I want to build a storefront. I want to build a school. I want to build whatever. That's what those accounts are for. They're for bigger purchases down the road. Normally when someone's looking at buying individual stocks and things, like they're looking for like, okay, like let's like analyze the market and let's see where I could, basically they're basically trading at that point.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Which I call it gambling.
It's a different kind of
So
poker.
I say it's a form of gambling. You know what I mean? And so I say, for me, my fix is poker. So I have more control playing poker, than I do with the crypto market and stuff. So I'd rather do something like that instead. But teach their own. But I just mean that if you're going to invest in those things, I would do that with entertainment money, not with like, okay, let me do this with my 401k money or things like that. No, no, no. Do that with your entertainment, and then if you win, you win. If you don't, hey, you have nothing to worry about. It's spilt milk.
Hmm.
That's all it is.
So now when we set up a budget,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
do you have a rule on specific percentages that like X amount of percentage should go towards a mortgage, X amount should go to entertainment, X amount should go to, living expenses or, other like reoccurring, utilities or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for your mortgage, I would say no more than 30% of your income should consist of your mortgage because, right now, a lot of people are getting these, home loans and stuff, and they're putting no money, there's no money down on the home loans. And the problem with that is that, their mortgages are extremely high, like they're ridiculously high, right? And so they're getting these mortgages and like 60-70% of their income is their mortgage. Well, then how do you survive after that? You're basically working to live in a house. Like that's not a life. So I always say like the rule of thumb is 30%, no more than 30%, 25-30% is a good area to stay in with your mortgage. Everything else, I'll be honest, Jason, that's all up to the person. They're like I have an uncle, right? He loves to gamble. He loves to go to the casino and gamble. Okay, he doesn't. There's certain things that certain people are into that other people are not, and he says, "Look, I like to gamble. It's my entertainment. I'm a certain age now. No one's gonna change that for me. I don't give a shit. I'm budgeting for it. I work for it. If I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. But I don't care. I'm gonna spend this. Okay, fine. I'm not gonna pull your teeth
But it's
and tell you how
budgeted.
to
Yeah,
spend your money.
he's not taking his 30% for his mortgage payment and, betting it all on
No,
black.
no, he budgets a good amount of his money every month and says, "This is my poker. This is my not my poker. This is my slot machine money, basically, right?" And he likes to play poker at the tables, like the blackjack tables and the those weird poker games, right? So he likes to gamble, right? But that's just him. That's his fix. My job is not to tell him like, "Oh, that's wrong. You should call Gamblers Anonymous." No, because he's taking care of his shit.
Yeah.
He just has a budget for gambling. Yeah, it is
Well,
what it is.
that's not an
There's
addiction. That's a plan.
Yeah, that's a
He's got
plan.
it
He plans
budgeted.
for it.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you can at that point walk away from the table and say, okay, I've spent this much, this month's budget on, my entertainment, my gambling, I'm done. If you can walk away, it's not an addiction. It's a hobby.
No. Yeah. And there it is. It's a hobby for him, and that's what we've created. For him, it's his hobby. And some people have hobbies. Normally, it's older men that have hobbies. You know what I mean? Where they spend a lot of money on hobbies, golf, things like that. So there's certain things that people they won't budget for. They wont budge for. They're gonna say, nope, this is my hobby. This is what I do. You know what I mean? Everything else, I don't care about fast food. I don't care about this. My wife cooks for me. I can take to a sack lunch. Whatever they decide to do. But when we're talking about like the budget itself, it's just it's there's no like okay 10% for this. Like I don't like with all due respect, I love the guy Dave Ramsey. I love Dave Ramsey. You know what I mean? I think he's an awesome. We've actually preached the same exact thing. The only where me and him differ is that this guy is like the budget Nazi.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you got to live off of a can of beans and top ramen for the next 10 years until you pay off your mortgage. No, I'm not living like that, man. Like you got me messed up. But if I'm going to be a part of this journey, it's going to be fun for me, and and I'm okay. Let's say delaying my progress 2-3 years. I don't really care about that because at the end of the day, I'm gonna enjoy me a steak. I'm gonna enjoy my money. I'm gonna go to the bar when I want to. I'm gonna do that, but I'm just not gonna overspend in those areas. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I do the budgets for people, it's always it's an individual budget, because everybody's different. Now an 18-year-old, you could be a drill sergeant with an 18-year-old because an 18-year-old they're just gonna blow their money on dumb shit anyways. They're
Yeah.
18 years old. From 18 to 25, you don't even know what to spend your money on. You know what I mean? So it's just like this is what you're gonna do with your money, and that's it. You know what I mean? You're just gonna put 20% of your income away in your savings and this and that, and that's what we're gonna do. And this little 30% that you're gonna live off of, that's your bubblegum money. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Go have fun with that.
Yeah.
30%, whatever you spend it on, you spend it on. I'm not going to ask questions because you're 18. It's probably going to be on some weird shit anyway. So I don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
You know
I mean,
what I mean? So
but
yeah.
that's like the biggest thing, especially for like a lot of the welders that, they get out of school, they hit like a turnaround, they do shutdowns, or like back when oil was good, like they'd hit a pipeline. I mean, the average, I mean, like you could earn a six-figure salary. It's not unobtainable, but you have to go
Yeah.
out and be able to do the work. Not, I mean, that's not going to be everybody. You're not going to get out of welding school and go to your local fab shop and make six figures. But if you are
Yeah.
making that kind of money, and like I said, and spend it instead of spending it on hookers and blow, like where can we take that money and put it? And that's kind of like the premise of this whole conversation is like, where do I start? If I've got good money coming in and I
Mhm.
haven't screwed up and bought into the American system where I need to accumulate a lot of debt to accumulate wealth later on, where
Mhm.
can I spend that money now? Instead of
Yeah.
going out and buying a fancy truck and putting rims on it and buying, a custom fabricated bed or anything like that. Like, where can I spend? I can be a little bit more frugal. I can buy maybe a used truck instead of a new one, instead of leasing something. Where I own it.
Mhm.
Where can I start putting some of this money at to where it's going to pay me back in the long run, or get my money to work for me later on in life?
Yeah. And that's where I always say that goes into the financial house because, regardless of, what your goals are or anything, the goal is just to get in the habit of start investing your money. But I always say to get in the habit of it, put it into, things that are professionally managed, like mutual funds. I'm a huge advocate for mutual funds. And so as long as you follow that, or you should have like, you have money coming in, good, establish your emergency right away. If you have debt, eliminate that debt. You know what I mean? Create your two other fundamental accounts, your short-term investment account for purchases in the short term, anywhere between 3 to 10 years out, right? So then it's like, well, at least I have options. I have a lot of people when they set up their investments and stuff in the short term, and they go, well, I don't really have any short term goals. Okay, well, let's just put money in anyways, because I'm pretty sure in 3 to 5 years, you might want to have some options available to you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Where you could put money in other things. Well, I already own a house. Well, let's put money away because money buys you options. And you never know when your neighbor's house might go up for sale or the lot next door is going up for sale and you're like, you know what, I want to buy that piece of land. Here, I got the cash here. Let me just buy that property real quick. You see, and so that's what I mean. You just want to buy assets over time. That's the main goal. You see, my biggest thing is like for me personally, I love real estate. I love land. It's not real estate. Like I'm not into selling houses. I am definitely not into that. But I do believe in accumulating property. As being a long term asset. And everything that I want to accumulate in my younger years now, I stopped. Here's what's funny in my younger years, I was very foolish with my money because I was trying to get rich fast. And I was trying to put my money in things that was like, oh, like let me turn this, 10,000 into a million, like overnight. And I was making a lot of mistakes, right? And when I finally realized it, I was like, you know what? I was like, there is no fast way to becoming wealthy. Now it is fast. It's funny. The fastest way to become wealthy is actually going slow. It's so funny. And it is fast. You'll get there faster. But for me, it's what I find most attractive is just accumulating as much assets as possible, whether it be businesses, whether it be real estate, things like that. Like me and my partner, like me, I do very well in finance, right? But I'm in a franchise system. I own my own franchise, but I'm in a franchise system, which means I don't need to come out of pocket to open up another office. You see, I don't have to do that at all. Um, so for me, where I want to grow my assets, me and my partner, we talked about let's buy land out here in Cherry Valley and Beaumont in California. It's in the desert, right? And there's a lot of land for sale. And I was like, let's buy out land and let's do land development, you know? There's no book on that or anything like that. Like no one taught me that. Well, Robert Kiyosaki kind of guided me that way. You know what I mean? But for me, I just see that the assets that I find more attractive that I could actually hold and touch is more like land development and stuff like that. I'm not into buying houses, fixing them and flipping them or anything like that. I'm looking at now for the long term, like in the next 5-10 years. I want to accumulate land and buy like build like like 40 houses on it and then sell those off. You know what I mean? That's the sexy thing for me now. I want to be like Grant Cardone, do stuff like that. You know
That
what I mean?
that makes a lot
But
more sense.
it yeah, but it doesn't change anything when it comes to my financial home because I'm still putting money away into those same exact accounts I'm just using those accounts to, okay, I have to put, $300,000 down. I have $300,000 cash right here. Here you go, boom. There's a check. You see, and I have the money to do that. And that's what we're teaching people is because remember, it's one thing to make money, but it's another thing to keep your money. And I think that's another question because a lot of people that make a lot of money, they still live paycheck to paycheck. And it's like, well, how are you living paycheck to paycheck? Because just because you're making money doesn't mean that you're keeping your money. And that's a whole nother, and a whole nother conversation right there.
Yeah, because like once you get to that point, especially for folks that like grew up with middle class parents and stuff, like I never had money growing up, and now that I'm getting to a point in my life where I have access to what's called adult money. Like it's very
Mhm.
easy to like walk in somewhere and be like, I've got the money, I want that, boom, done. It's a
Yeah.
lot harder to keep your money because like especially like I said, growing up blue collar or middle class, like I was never taught financial management. I was so now that I
Yeah.
have now that I'm able to buy things that I want, it's very hard to have that discipline to say no. You know what, instead of I'm gonna think about this, and I'm gonna give this 20, 30 days, and then I'll come back, and if I really want it, I'll get it. But meanwhile, I'm gonna hold on to that money. It's a little bit more difficult to start. If you've never had money, it's harder to hold on to it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's more difficult to stay disciplined when you're making money. That's why I tell people when you're starting out, that's the best time to start learning the discipline of taking a percentage of your money and saving that every single month. And the reason why is because if you can't be disciplined when you're broke, well then good luck trying to be disciplined when you have money and you have the ability to just well, I could buy that, I could buy that, I could buy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to be disciplined when you have the money. You know what I mean?
And
And I'll be honest with you, I know that because when I was a kid, and I was making great money. I was in the army, and they used to make fun of me because when I was stationed in Baghdad, we didn't go outside the wire in Baghdad, right? That was horrible. It was a horrible deployment. I like when I was in Mosul because we weren't grounded the whole time, but we were in Baghdad. This was when we were doing during the withdrawal, right? So we couldn't even. They were doing no operations outside the wire. It was the most boring deployment ever, right? So and I'll be honest with you, we didn't do anything out there. There was nothing. There was nothing going on. You know what I mean? It wasn't until they killed Bin Laden, ironically, which is funny because they killed Bin Laden and the war picked up in Iraq, which
yeah,
is that's a whole different war. But it picked up, because he was a martyr all over the place. So the warden, it was quiet for like 7 months. So they used to make fun of me. They used to be like, "Hey, Roybal, how many terrorists did you catch?" I'm like, "None." They'll be like, "How many houses did you buy?" I'm like, "Two." And they used to crack jokes like, "This guy's over here in Iraq and he has a team buying houses for him." You know what I mean? And it was true. We were buying houses in El Paso, Texas, all right, and we were accumulating property and all this stuff, right? And so I was 21 years old when I first crossed over 100, like six figures, right? And you're giving a 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid, six figures in income who doesn't come from money. What do you think he's going to do with all that money? Spend it all. I had $80,000 that year, and I filed my taxes of unaccounted for money. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not teaching from, something that I read in a book. No, I'm teaching from my experience. Like, it's hard to be disciplined, if when you have money than when you're broke. 'Cause at least when you're broke, it's like, well, I can't afford to do anything anyways, but at least when you're making money, I mean, when you have the money to do it, you're gonna spend it, and then it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I got a check coming in tomorrow anyways.
yeah.
I got a big
I
one. So you just gonna keep spending it and spending it and spending it. And that's where it gets hard.
yeah, I got invoices coming in. We can go out. We can take this trip.
Yeah, we can take this trip. Let's go. Like, oh, we're going to Vegas. I wasn't planning on it, but let's go. I'll go pick you guys up right now. And then you're doing a road trip to Vegas. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
So now,
And
like,
because you can.
what's like, for the average person, whether 18 to 50 or whatever, what's like one piece of information you could give them to kind of get them on track right now, as far as setting themselves up for success financially? What's one thing that, regardless,
Yeah.
because I know, like, if a term life insurance policy, it's going to be better off at 18 than it is going to be at the age of 50. What's something,
Yeah.
anybody could do like right now to start getting themselves on the right track when it comes to financial
Well,
success?
well, what I would do is first and foremost, right? I would get in contact with me. That's the first thing. So, definitely, send me a text or message me on Instagram or something. And it's not a one size fits all, right? And what I do is, as I said, Get in contact with me, and what I'll do is I'm going to construct a financial needs analysis, right? And that's entirely free. I do that for everybody. That's not for the show or nothing. That's what I. This is how I built my business. Was I provide the blueprint for free, right? Now with that blueprint, then from there I can give someone concrete answers based off what they want to do. Because an 18-year-old's goals is going to be different from a 50-year-old's goals. You know what I mean, in terms of money and what they want to do.
Mhm.
And so, but once we have the analysis set up and we see how much we're making in income, how much we have in debt, we have everything laid out. And then I look at your goals and you say, I want to do this, this, and that. And I can say, okay, cool. Here's the picture. Now you can see how the next 35 years of your life are going to look in terms of money. Now, here's your shortfall. These are the things that are distracting you. Now, let's fix that. And we
Okay.
can tackle those things head on.
Gotcha. So now,
Yeah, so that's the best advice, and it's free. That's the best part. Free education never hurt anybody.
oh hell no. So now, when it comes to debt, do you see debt as a positive or a negative? And then, like, when it comes to debt, like, what's a good debt to have? What's a bad debt to have?
Yeah. So as far as like, liability debt, like, car loans, credit cards, student loans, right?
Yeah.
Those I would consider bad debts. And the reason why is because you're getting yourself into a debt where immediately everything is devaluing, right? So you're now in a hole and you're basically borrowing for liabilities. And that's one thing that I am against. And remember, before I became a financial advisor, I was $96,000 in debt, so I do have a little bit of PTSD when it comes to debt and everything. But things that I would say are good debt is, this is leverage now. This is where the difference between debt and leverage. Leverage is me owning a second property, and I have a renter that is paying off my mortgage plus putting money in my pocket. You see? So I borrowed the money to make more money. That my debt makes me money. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so same thing like a business loan, right? I took out a business loan and I don't pay the business. Like I'm not the one that has to pay out the loan. My business, my employees, my customers, they're the ones who actually pay off my business loan. I just maintain a portion of what's left over. You see what I mean? So those are things that I would say are good debts. Bad debts are things that, like I said, when you buy them, immediately they depreciate in value. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So like when you drive your brand new car off the lot, it depreciates 7 to
There
10
you go.
grand. As soon as you hit
Yeah.
as soon as you hit the curb.
Yeah. And I'm not against buying brand new cars. Like I said, like I'm not running the Dave Ramsey program where Dave Ramsey's a multimillionaire who still doesn't believe in buying a brand new car.
Yeah.
No,
That's the
to
total money
each their
makeover
own.
guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, so to each their own, right? Like for me personally, like me, I have a lot of jewelry, right? Like I'm one person, I buy nice watches, I have rings, I have bracelets, I have, neck, I like jewelry, you know what I mean? And I like gold jewelry. But not everybody's into that, and I'm not gonna follow a system where it's saying, well, you can't buy and spend money on jewelry. And this is no, I drive a very, very nice Cadillac. I have a Cadillac CT6. It's a beautiful car and I'm on the wait list right now to buy an Escalade. And I'm going to buy a brand new Escalade. And the reason I want a brand new Escalade has nothing to do if it's a smart financial decision. It has to do with I want a brand new Escalade. I earned it. I could buy one, and I'm going to buy me one.
That goes back
You
to
know what
that
I mean?
discipline
And
area we were talking about earlier.
yeah, you see what I mean? And yeah, like same thing with my uncle. You know what I mean? The same exact thing, which is this is not. What are you going to tell him not to spend? Oh, you can't spend money at the casino. You know how much you could have at your retirement. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
already on track to retire with what I want. You said I'm on track.
Yeah.
This is just my entertainment money. You
And
see
you
what I mean?
budgeted that.
Same thing. Exactly. You budgeted that. You see what I mean? Me, I've always wanted an Escalade. So guess what? I budgeted for it. I'm on the wait list. When I get that phone call, I'm gonna walk down to the Cadillac dealership. I'm gonna walk away with a brand new Cadillac, and people are gonna talk shit.
Yeah.
But guess what? It doesn't matter because I worked for it. I did it.
See
You know what I mean?
I think that's the biggest difference is you budgeted for it because like because like that's the American way. It's like debt. My grandfather, like wise man like yours, he told me at a very young age, like Americans buy shit we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. And that's the American
yeah,
way. But if you budget it and it's like, damn, I want that badass Escalade, like you've budgeted, you planned for it. It wasn't like,
yeah,
I need a daily driver. I really want an Escalade. I think I can, foot that $800-900 a month payment, before insurance and gas and all that other stuff. Or yeah,
yeah,
I don't even know what Escalades are going for right now. But like you've
yeah,
budgeted that. So I mean it's like you got to take responsibility and be financially savvy with that. You know, like budget for
Yeah.
those things, and eventually you're gonna get there. You don't need it right now.
Yeah, there you go. You see, and like I said, I budgeted for that 5 years ago. You see, and that's just it. Like, and they say, well, how do you do that? Well, you take what you'd be putting towards in a car payment, put away for 5 years, and I can pay cash.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it is what it is. And so that's what I mean is that, like, for me now, like I said, the people that are listening to this that are hardcore Dave Ramsey fans, like I said, they're gonna say, well, that's irresponsible. If you bought a used one, you could have saved yourself 20,000. No, you're not getting it. It has nothing to do with me saving 20,000. I want a brand new Escalade. I want the brand new one off the lot, me being the first owner, and that's it. And I want to be able to drop it, and that's it because I could do it.
hmm
It has nothing to do with the 20 grand. I'm gonna pay the extra 20 just because it's brand new and I could.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, and that's that. So there's some things that, like I said, like when it comes to, like when we're doing this, conversation, and like I said, everybody teach their own. It's teach their own. As long as you prepare for those things, it doesn't matter what you like. My job is not to tell you how to spend your money or what to spend it on. That's entirely up to you. My job is just to tell you how to get there.
hmm
That's it. So you want to buy a brand new Escalade? Let me show you how to get there. You want to build a business? Let me show you how to get there. You want to retire at 60? Let me show you how to get there. That's
I
that's
gotcha.
it.
Now,
Oh.
what do you think
hmm
about like because you said that like credit card debt is bad debt, but is there a way to use like a credit card, you know, very like in a savvy way? So like a lot of credit
Yeah.
cards have different rewards programs, like frequent flyer miles, like all this other happy horse shit. I mean, does that like
Yeah.
does it pay off in the long run, or are you going to end up paying more in interest than you're going to obtain in rewards?
Yeah. So good question. So I remember I told you I had $96,000 in debt, right?
hmm
And when I paid it off after 3 years, I hustled my ass off to pay that one off, and I cried when it was over because that was a hard 3 years to do it. And anyway, so um, I had such bad PTSD from the debt itself that I ended up shooting myself in the foot because I ended up having no credit. You see, I went for so long with not having no debt, I had no credit. So I couldn't even borrow a stick of gum if I wanted to, right? And one time when I started making, money, actually this is recent, within the last year or two, and I went to check into a hotel and I gave them my debit card. They said, "Oh no, we need a credit card." And I was like, "Why? There's money on my debit card. Just take the debit card." You know what I mean? And they go, "Well, it's for charges this." And I was like, "Trust me, you ain't gonna spend more than what's on that debit card."
hmm
And I was like, "Just take the debit card." They go, "No, we need a credit card." And I was like, "Damn it!" So they're like, "Here, you can apply for the Hilton rewards, this, and that, whatever, from American Express." So there, right. So I applied for that, right? But it was funny because with that credit card, then I started learning a little bit more about credit, which is having 3 lines of credit open and things like that. And revolving credit is what helps you out. Fixed credit doesn't, like auto loans and everything, that doesn't help you at all. Revolving credit is what does. And so the way that I use my credit cards, right, is I use them for everything, like my expenses, all that stuff, right? Like when I go to the grocery store, my credit card, my American Express card, I use for everything, right? But when before that payment is up, what I do is I just pay it off. That's all I do. So I get the rewards, I get everything like that. They still, and it's funny because they keep increasing my line of credit. I keep thinking that they think that I'm gonna go over the limit, and I'm gonna have to be, oh shit, the one day I can't pay it,
hmm
and then they're gonna hit me that one time with the interest. You know what I mean? But no, I use it for my everyday thing. I get my points, and I just go ahead and swipe it. And it's so funny because now I have a 720 credit score, and I don't even have a mountain of debt. I just have what I use for the month, and then pay it off at the end of the month, and that's
Yeah.
it. And my credit score is still up there. You know what I mean? So it just shows that, hey, you know what, this guy, he's paying his annual fee, the $90 for the year or whatever. He's on time with his stuff. He usually pays it off. You know what I mean? And so because of that, that's they I don't have outstanding credit. Like I don't have like an 800 credit score, but
Mhm.
I mean, why do I need 800? 720 is just as freaking good.
Yeah. No, that's one thing I was wondering because a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, like if you want to build up, if you want to build up a good credit score, like get a credit card, like damn near max it out, and then you just pay it off at the end of every month." And I was wondering, is that a myth or does it like actually work?
uh, no, you could that will definitely build you a high credit score because remember, a credit score is just a bank's way of seeing how much money they can make off of you. That's their way of rating it. That's it. To
hmm
get the highest credit score, which is funny, right? All you have to do is get a mountain of debt and make the bare minimum payments on it. That's how you get the highest credit score because it's like, well, He has a lot of debt. He makes his bare minimum. We make a lot of money off of him. We're making the full 27.99% off of this guy. You know what I mean?
every
So
month.
yeah, he has a give this guy the 800 credit score. Yeah, give him the 800 credit score because this guy has the best credit worthiness, meaning we make the most money off this person. You see?
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood is
Yeah,
like, the whole
yeah,
credit card system and all that. Cause like I had a pile of credit card debt and then I was like, man, like that was my goal was to pay this shit off. And it's like, I want to get out from underneath that mountain
yeah,
because like you make the minimum payment
yeah.
and then it's always there. Every month it's a constant. So like you got to
Yeah.
pay a little bit more than what they're asking for until you can get that thing paid
Mm-hmm.
off.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the financial needs analysis, that's where that comes into play because with that document, with that whole blueprint that we set up, we actually pinpoint when you're going to be debt free. I'm actually going to pinpoint the day you'll be debt free. And, we basically find that plan, we debt stack it. And then what we do is we say, okay, now let's pump this thing full of steroids now. Let's throw more money at it. And like, instead of being debt free in 5 years, let's do it in three.
Mm,
Like let's do that. We work out a budget for that. The goal is, the hard part for people at the beginning, as I said, give it 90 days is 90 days to just get into the habit of it, get into the habit of doing the right things with your money. And just like anything else, like if you're going to the gym and everything like that, 90 days in, it's just going to be part of a routine. That's all it is. It's just part of your everyday routine. That's it.
mm. Yeah, I've always heard like start off with 3 days, then 3 weeks, then 3 months. And then, like
Uh-huh.
it turns into a habit.
Yeah, and that's it. Same thing. Same thing. Money is no different. And the hard part for, the working class is because we've never been taught those things. So when you're doing that, it's kind of like you're teaching them French. They don't speak French. So they're like, okay, like let me get used to
Got to
this. And
ease
then
into this.
it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable at the beginning. Yeah, like one of the biggest issues I get is people call me, right? And let's say they're saving. It's usually people that save $100 or less a month, right? And it's like, okay, so just start saving at least 100 a month. And then it's never the people that are saving over 1,000 a month, right? The ones saving over 1,000 a month are like, shit, let's go, let's pump more money into it. The ones that are saving like 100 a month, they look at their savings and investments like a bill, and they're usually calling and saying like, hey, my that $100, man, I'm probably gonna need that back because like, oh man, I don't know if I could afford that right now. And I'm like, why do you look at your investments and your savings as a bill? You're not even saving 5% of your income. You know what I mean? Like, why are you looking at it as a bill? Yeah, it's not a bill. It's a save. So that's the hardest part is because a lot of people look at their savings and investments as a bill, and it's not. It's what you're doing is you're developing a concept which is known as paying yourself first. And what paying yourself first is, it's an idea that it's a form of self-respect. And what you're doing is you're saying, future Richard, I'm doing this for future Richard. He deserves this more. You know what I mean? Like my future self deserves this money more. And so you're just taking a portion, and that goes back to the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It said
Hmm.
the same thing: take 10% of your income and begin saving it. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. These money concepts, they're in the Bible. It's old information. You take a certain percentage of your income and just save it every single month, and that's the secrets on how to get rich. You see, is you just got to get in the habit of constantly saving. You don't have to save a lot, but you got to save something. You got to save money today. This way, in the future, money is going to save you. You can't just not save nothing. And like, well, I'm hoping it happens. No, it's never going to happen. So as I say, take a small amount, start saving, get used to it, and then once it becomes a habit, then you can start increasing it little by little. Just keep putting more and more away into it.
That's a good way to look at it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming out on the podcast. Before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody, like if they want to reach out to you, where they can find you? You recommended like either phone call or email or through your social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So my Instagram is Mr. Mr. underscore Roybal, Roybal, and that's my Instagram. So the at Mr. underscore Roybal, and my you go ahead and just shoot me a text, and it's 909-434-4567, and that's like the best way to get in contact with me, especially for the show. I wouldn't mind putting my direct cell phone number up. Anybody just shoot me a text. We'll see what we have on the calendar and what works. Let me know what state you're in. This way we can verify if, I'm licensed in that state, obviously. If not, it takes a week to get the license approved anyways. I just got to pay the government
Yeah,
a
there you go.
little
Back to
fee.
paying the
And
man.
then, yeah, you got to pay the government their fee, but it takes about a week. And you know, it is the government just wants their money. That's all it is. They just want their money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so directly, message me on Instagram with questions, or you can shoot me a text with questions. Love to answer them.
Well, awesome, man. Once again, thank you so much for coming out, sharing your knowledge. Like I gained a lot out of this. I'm sure the listeners are going to gain a lot too. And then, yeah, like you said, reach out if you're looking to get set up financially. Go ahead and reach out to Richard.
And like I said, the financial blueprint, everything, it's all free. Free education never hurt nobody. So you go ahead, get your blueprint and everything like that. It's complimentary. And then what you do with it is entirely up to you.
There you go. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you once again. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and share this information with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I appreciate you having me on, bro.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Hope the information that Richard discussed is beneficial to y'all. If y'all want more information, go ahead and hit him up on his cell phone or drop him a DM on Instagram. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. I have a few more like this kind of planned out for the future to discuss some other topics that are relevant to your journey but aren't solely focused on welding. Hope you all have a kick-ass week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.